Thank you all for tuning in to the 20th episode of the Sonot PC podcast / vlog with Rob Adamas here on YouTube and my website, www.sonotpcpodcast.com. Always humbled, of course, to have you all tuning in, all my loyal followers, and to everybody new, thank you for being here, taking time out of your day. You might be able to see this, maybe not. I've got my NHL playoff beard here. Haven't shaved. It's kind of a tradition for all of us current and former players. As the old saying goes, you can take the player out of the rink, but you can't take the rink out of the player. So, anyway, Game 7 coming up. And also, tonight, the Toronto Raptors hopefully making history tonight at home, being the first Canadian NBA franchise to win the championship. So, something that I wanted to mention quickly. I mentioned Leo Zagami, who's very, very well-known author for Confessions of the Illuminati series. His family's history in the Illuminati goes back hundreds of years. I had a chance to speak with Leo a few times this past week, and I've invited him to come on the show. He's very busy with a book tour right now, so he gave me a thumbs up, so hopefully very, very soon we'll have him on the show. So stay tuned for that one there. So, my last show was very non-scripted, and it was the most personal show for me. The original show that I had written, I had scrapped not long before we recorded the show because the message was to do something completely different, and it was very, very important to do so. And for those of you who watched that show, and for those of you who didn't watch that show, I hope that you go and check that one out. That was episode 19. And that was titled Justin Trudeau, De-Weaponizing Canadians to Turn Canada into the Next Venezuela. And since that show aired, a lot of people watched the show. A lot of people apparently went out and started purchasing weapons. So kudos to everybody who's doing that. We don't want to turn into the next Venezuela. So all the information there, certainly go to the internet. There's been a lot of other stuff that's transpired since that whole episode came out a few weeks ago. Anyway, I wasn't really 100% sure about the show, of what I really wanted to talk about, because there are so many things that Trudeau screws up on every single day. So choosing a topic is like, hey, take your pick. However, I decided that something that came up a few days ago was probably what I needed to really speak about. And I'm going to go into this. It's not as non-scripted as the last show. For simple reason, there's much more content information. And so I don't want to miss out anything that I think you guys really need to hear at this point. So, that said, let me just go here, and we're going to go down to where we need to. A report came out the other day in regards to the murder of Indigenous women across Canada, which has been happening for decades. And the report came back with a lot of holes, let's call it, in terms of what should be done, what hasn't been done, hopefully reparations in order to further this investigation, because by all accounts, it has not been carried off very well, is the summation of what that report was all about. But very interestingly, our lack of a leader, Justin, I like to call him Justine Trudeau, and, I know everybody's got their own favorites for this, but that's one of my favorites. Let's kind of backtrack a little bit from what happened on Friday to 2016, when Justin Trudeau voted against a conservative motion declaring ISIS atrocities across the globe as genocide. Well, what did Mr. Trudeau do in the last week in regards to that word genocide, which he has apparently no understanding of the definition? Well, he claims now that Canada is guilty of genocide. Oh, okay. Canadians are guilty of genocide, but ISIS is not. Can somebody please explain to me how this guy is still walking around alive? You tell me, okay? For whatever reason, this guy, as those of you who are followers of this kind of information, seems to love ISIS. Well, there's a reason behind that. Well, he's a degenerate, and degenerates don't think properly. So, here's kind of what came down the pike with all of this. Now, in Trudeau's view, there's no such thing as an Islamic terrorist like ISIS. They are apparently strong voices for Canada. I'm going to say no, that 37 million Canadians think otherwise. But he continues to do what he does, which is throw all of these kinds of things in our faces. So I'm going to suggest to anybody who gets anywhere near this guy, use a right and then a left, because this guy goes down like, you know, a wet paper sack. He's got no nuts, okay? So take care of that for me, would you? Thank you. Anyway, from what I wrote down here, I could go into the complete history of Justin Trudeau and his narcissistic behavior, his long-time therapy for mental dysfunction. If this isn't already plainly known in the public domain, then by all means, please let everybody who doesn't know. This guy's had a long, long history of this. So, his education, we'll call it education because he really doesn't have much of an education, has been hating English Canada specifically. The Christian faith, colonialism, and as I call it, his two public fathers. One is his fake father, Pierre, and his actual sperm donor, Fidel Castro. Okay? Both were Marxist communists. Okay? Same ideology, best friends. Okay? For anybody who wants to look into that piece of history, by all means, take a look at the pictures and come to your own conclusions on that one. But I'll leave it at that. Now, when you use the term genocide, the definition has come out to be that it has been an annihilation of a part of a population. Back in the 70s, Pol Pot in Cambodia, for example, killed over 2 million of their citizens, which encompass about 24% of their population. Now that's genocide. Okay? When in Eastern Europe, when the Croats and the Serbs and all of the genocide that goes on in those parts of the country, the Holocaust, for example, of 6 million Jews, that's genocide. Okay? Now, mislabeling what is obviously a tragedy in terms of the indigenous women in this country, the facts remain that the majority of the indigenous women who have been murdered were actually murdered by indigenous men. Okay? So to label Canadians, all of Canada, for decades and decades as genocidal Canada is slander. It's another form of treason, in my view. To listen to this guy is to puke all day long. Just the sound of his voice, I've never hated anybody in my life, just so you know. It's a very strong word that I tend to stay really far away from. But in terms of hate, apparently we can't have hate speech, yet here we have the most divisive individual in 152 years of Canadian history. And he thinks there's 100 years of Canadian history. Wow, education. Wow, there you go, buddy. Anyway, I digress, and I could go off on that one quite a bit. But the whole point of this story on genocide opened up a real can of worms. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a document that was brought out on Friday. And it's a public summons issued by the International Tribunal of Crimes of Church and State, the ITCCS, within the boundaries of the Dominion of Canada. Now, I believe it's about a 5 document here, and you can go, obviously, to the internet. What I'm going to do is I am going to hopefully attach this document to the uploading of this video so you can all read it. But I'll try and summarize this very, very quickly for you. Now, this summons was issued on the 7th day of June of this year to the following individual persons, and there's 21 people named in this. Because as soon as Justin Trudeau used the word genocide to identify Canada, he opened up something very, very potentially bad for him, and hopefully very, very good for the Canadian people overall. Now, Julie Payette, the Governor General of Canada, is the first person named in this. Justin Trudeau, number 2. We go down to the Vatican Papal Nuncio to Canada, Luigi Bonazzo, and it goes down and down and down the first page to the CEO of PetroChina Limited, Wang Dongjin, the CEO of PetroChina Canada, Jilin Fu, and a number of other people, including Brenda Lucky, the Commissioner of the RCMP, Peter Montague, Officer of the RCMP, Gerald Lacroix, Cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church in Canada, and a plethora of other names down the list. Well, this is a public indictment of the crime of genocide in Canada, which now Justin Trudeau has put himself on trial for. Now, as far as my understanding of this particular document, it is not a document specific to a court of law as we know it to be, but it is, in my view, pretty much like a grand jury, like in the States, or a coroner's inquest. You go into it in order to identify evidence, in order to move it towards the potential of an actual court trial, in this case, I believe, to the Supreme Court of Canada. So for all of us who can't stand Justin Trudeau, all the libtards, MPs, 46 of which are born in another country, and again, I always ask that question, how can that even be? Especially when these people have no real ties to Canada. They hate Canada. I guess only in Canada can you get away with this sort of thing, but hopefully not for much longer. So, the tribunal charge, count 1 on this indictment, is that the Government of Canada, the Privy Council Office, and the Crown of England through the Governor General, and the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church, the Church of England, and the United Church of Canada, as part of a joint, deliberate, and ongoing criminal conspiracy, have willfully planned, committed, concealed, and aided and abetted the following crimes. And there are 5 listed here, specific to the intentional genocide of indigenous and other non-Christian peoples and their children as part of a calculated war of extermination. The imprisoning, harming, trafficking, exploiting, torturing, and ritual killing of those children and others under their legal care and custody. The violent occupying and exploiting of the lands and resources of indigenous and other non-Christian peoples. The financial defrauding of the people of Canada by falsely posing as legitimate religious bodies in order to avoid taxation. And, number 5, the active concealing of these and other offenses and the deliberate obstructing of justice. That last one, I think we can bring Jody Wilson-Raybould into that after she was fired as the Attorney General, then put into Veterans Affairs, and Jody just recently, within the last couple of weeks, made her intentions known to run as an independent, and Jane Philpott, who was the other Liberal MP thrown out of caucus with Jody, who happened to be the president of the Treasury Board at the time, that she quit that because of the pressure that was being put on Jody close friend of hers. She is going to be running as an independent as well. And Selena Cesar Chavanez was the third Liberal MP who was forcibly, verbally assaulted by Justin Trudeau when she told him that she would not run again in the upcoming October election. So our fake feminist prime minister, who doesn't understand what the term feminist means, has three individuals just in his own party who no longer want to have anything to do with him. So tell me how far Mr. Feminist has gone with this fake persona. So anyway, that is just a quick rundown of count number 1. And there, as I said, are 4 counts in total running down for this. Now, in this case, the person's name, the 21 people named in this particular indictment, are summoned to appear before a public inquiry convening under the auspices of this tribunal and international law on Monday, the 16th day of September, 2019, 10 a.m. in the city of Vancouver, at a public location to be designated at this point. All right, so I don't want anybody doing cartwheels yet, thinking that the treasonous behavior of a large number of these people, and of course Trudeau is forefront of all of this, is somehow putting us in the driver's seat now in order to have him brought up on treason or any other charge and actually fully indicted. This is a good step in the right direction. We just have to wait and see. And I am going to put it out there that there's been a very difficult time. I've spoken to a lot of people around the country about law firms taking up the cause of the Canadian people. It seems like that there isn't a law firm at this point that I personally know of that has a set of balls, the morals, the values, and the integrity to take on a government that is the most treasonous governing body in Canada's history. The way we're slapped in the face every single day is a shame to what is supposed to be a democracy. Well, I don't see any democracy. I see tyranny. I see a dictatorship. And that is not going to happen in this country. So I hope that there's a law firm or law firms specifically out there who have it together, who know law and is willing to move this forward. So this is going to be, I think, one of my shorter videos because I just wanted to update everybody on this information, which at this point is not being fully displayed by mainstream media, and don't expect it to. We know what they're all about, unfortunately. So it is up to us, patriots, whether we have a YouTube show, whether we sit down with somebody over coffee, it doesn't matter. It's all about sharing. The videos are about sharing, you passing on information. One of the biggest questions I get all the time is, how do I awaken somebody to truth and reality? It's a tough thing, but I think ultimately what I've personally found is you have to ask the question of people. Depending upon the demographic, it's the same question. What's most important to you? For the elderly, it might be healthcare. It might be pensions. It might be a retirement fund. For millennials, it might be, well, what's it going to cost me to go to university? Whatever it is, you've got to sit down with them and present them with the actual factual evidence. And that is a starting point in order to get those people to get out and vote in October and vote properly. And we know that vote is not for the Liberal Party anywhere. What happened in Newfoundland, Labrador in the last few weeks with a Liberal minority government, I put a post out there that I believe that voting was rigged because every Newfoundlander, Labradoran hates Trudeau. So I don't even know how in the world that they would have even had a minority government. So an investigation should be launched. So that's up to you folks out there. So, since we're coming to the end of another show, apparently there's a mosquito flying around here. There we go. Got him. Oh, I think I'll call him Trudeau. He's dead now. Okay. That was easy. Oh, my camera guy's laughing. Very good. Anyway, folks, I'm always so humbled that you spend time with me. Loyal followers who take the videos, share them. Some of the folks who have their own YouTube channels and such. I am so grateful to you all for this because I always say it because it's true. I'm just one voice. And when we band together, we are a collective of voices and hearts and souls and minds in loving Canada. I think overall that's really what bands us together is our love for the country, but our love is not enough if you sit back and do nothing. That's a problem. And I know that there's plenty of you out there who are taking daily action, and I pray for you. I'm right there with you in my heart and in my soul, and I take action wherever I can and wherever I'm at, and you all have to do the same. So, anyway, as always, updates will come. Hopefully I'll be doing some live feeds here very, very soon. Hard to do everything that I want to do when I'm on the road as often as I am. But this is a war. It's a battle in so many different ways. And ultimately you want to win the war, and sometimes you lose the odd battle. But if we win more battles than the other side, we win the war. And that's really how this has to go. And I keep it very, very simple. It's good against evil, and we know who's evil here. So, as always, do your own research. Mantra of the show. Keep the faith. Okay? I know a lot of times, especially of everything that I hear on social media, there seems to be a real lack of faith. A lot of venting, but a real lack of faith in people thinking that doesn't matter what you do, it won't make a difference. That's not true. Don't ever believe that. Okay? Now, tune in always, and I'll put as much content as I can out there as fast as I can at Sonat PC Podcast /vlog with Rob Adamus on YouTube, and again, the website www.sonatpcpodcast.com. And please, when you view the videos, if you haven't already subscribed and liked, please do so. Please share. Trying to get the viewership up, and I know YouTube is censoring me as much as they're banning and censoring a whole lot of conservatives, Christians, Jewish, anybody who is not, quote, left, the leftists. Let's leave the left where they belong. Nowhere. Okay? We've got a lot of work to do before October, and we can get it done. In this country, take it back. We're the governing body here, 37 million Canadians. We can do this. Okay? So, as I always say with all of this, again, thank you for tuning in. And God be with you and your family in all things. And good night.